Before we go on, I just wanted to show you this little commercial. So I talked about Federal Express on Thursday. So this was one of the really awesome commercials during the 80s. And the guy who's actually doing this is a gentleman by the name of John Moscetta. So what I want you to realize something too. Before Federal Express did this, package delivery before 10 a.m. in the morning was theoretically impossible. Federal Express, in essence, created something that did not exist before. And they wanted to use a commercial to emphasize everything about how rough a day it is, but just think about you'll be able to get your goods the next day. And this is the commercial that they came up with.
Okay, Eunice, travel plans. I need to be in New York on Monday, LA on Tuesday, New York on Wednesday, LA on Thursday, New York on Friday. Got it. Got it. So you want to work here? What really makes you think you deserve a job?
Well, sir, I think on my feet, I'm going to figure time to shoot mine.
Excellent. Can you start on Monday?
Yes, sir, absolutely, without hesitation.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard. Wonderful, wonderful. And in conclusion, Jim, Bill, Bob, call, Fred, Load, Dog, Abe, and Ted. Business is business. And as we all know, in order to get something done, you got to do something. In order to do something, we got to get to work. So let's get to work. Thank you for taking me. Peter, you did a bang up job. I'm putting you in charge of Pittsburgh. Sure. I know it's perfect, Peter. That's why I picked Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's perfect. Peter, may I call you Pete?
I'll wait 15.
Pete.
Is Mr. Schindler here to see you?
I'm going to wait 15 seconds.
Can you wait 15 seconds?
I'll wait 15 seconds.
Congratulations on your deal in Denver, Dave. I'm putting you down to deal with Dallas. Down to the deal. Do we have a deal? It's a deal. I got to go. I got a call coming in. Hi, dog. Just tell it down.
In this fast-moving, high-pressure, get-it-done-yesterday world, aren't you glad there's one company that can keep up with it all?
You got a deal. Good. I'm putting you down to deal with Dick. Dick, what's the deal with the deal? Are we dealing? We're dealing. Dave, it's a deal with Don, Doc, Dick. Doc, it's a deal with Dave, Dick, and Dave. Don, it's a doc with Dick, Dave, and Doug. Gotta go, Dave. Disconnecting. Gotta go, Dick. Disconnecting. Gotta go, Dad. Disconnecting.
Federal Express. And it absolutely, positively has to be there overnight.
And realize they were just inventing this stuff. So they were just, getting the whole idea that they could actually do this in the very beginning. And we are where we are now with supply chain being where it is, all because of that little idea that he had for his MBA thesis paper. By the way, he made a C in the paper. And he said, if you knew me in my MBA days, you wouldn't have been surprised. So anyway, just thought I would carry that on. All right, so let's finish up chapter 1. Just a few last minute things to bring along. So we talked about the key functions. I want to also, before I go on, I want you to notice something about this. Okay, so as they talk about, three things flow in one direction: physical possession, ownership, and promotion. But some things flow in the other direction, and some things flow back and forth. These items right here are subject to the omni-channel, where the consumer either flows ordering and payment in one direction, or when they flow in both directions, this is where the omni-channel does its work, right there. And so anything that goes on in these parameters is where the omni-channel, your smartphones interact, negotiate, finance, risk, ordering, payment, and information sharing. You do all of those on anything as simple as Uber or DoorDash. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that. We'll talk about it more, as I said, when we get into the chapter where we deal with this, but just a notion there. And the last thing I want to talk about is that, remember I said that this is an iterative process. And so an iterative process is, as I said, a process and not an event. In other words, it does not have a single beginning or an end, but it is a constant flowing stage. The framework basically provides you how the class is going to be designed. The first chapters, 1, 2, and 3, will be on user analysis. We'll talk about how we make analysis of the channel, and then we'll talk about the big decisions, whether you should buy the goods that you're using or make them. Those are chapters 1, 2, and 3, the analysis. The decision phases of 4 and 5 are where we'll talk about the key design decisions of basically channel intensity, channel type, and dual distribution. Chapters 6 through 9 are to compare and contrast well-developed channel systems such as retailing, wholesaling, franchising, and then the omni-channel. And then the implementation stage, when we're executing channel strategies, will be chapters 10, 11, and 12, and we'll cover power, conflict, and relationships. And so I just wanted to kind of finish that up. All right. So we will end those. We'll start chapter 2. Now, for those of you who can remember back to principles, talked about 3 strategic processes, and they are segmentation, targeting, and positioning. Segmentation, targeting, and positioning. These are the major strategic functions that marketing does. The 4 Ps are planned through these stages. So, someone give me the uses for a bicycle. Travel. All right, give me another. Exercise, very good. Another? Entertainment, yeah, you bet. What else? Competition, that's one. How about transportation? How about another? People use their bikes for businesses, okay? Now, this is segmentation at its most raw form, okay? These are the reasons that we have bicycles and the reasons that we use them. Each one of us might have a particular idea that we think the bike should be used for, and it's these individuals who constitute a market segment. A market segment is a group of individuals who have like purposes or reasons developed around our purchases. So in essence, they are a mass group of individuals with a like-minded purpose, okay? Now, the interesting thing about a little bicycle example is other than competition, you could take the same bike and just with different messages, be able to sell that bike in different ways. And so this is the process of market segmentation. Let's say we take the exercise and the business group, and those are the 2 ones that we're going after, and that's the process of targeting. Targeting basically is our choosing of which of the particular market segments that we wish to pursue in order to achieve our goals. How do we choose the market segments? We look at those segments that most closely match the limited resources that we have so that we can maximize our appeals. Targeting is basically bringing everything to bear, a concentrated use of force, not on an entire market, but on sections. Segmentation, targeting, and then the last is positioning. And positioning is basically putting your product in a unique place in the consumer's mind relative to the competition. Positioning puts a unique place in the consumer's mind relative to competition. We love our competition. We want to know everything we want to know about them because it is our unique selling proposition that makes us different from the others. And so this is the basics in that you start out when you're talking about principles. In my graduate marketing strategy, I hammer this over and over again because this is the thinking process that ultimately gets us to the 4 Ps, okay? We don't do the 4 Ps unless we do this first. So, how do we segment by place? Well, I'm gonna give you an example. So, I've been critical many times on Walmart. So when they do something smart, I also like to champion them. In 2013, Walmart bought Jet.com. Jet.com was a dynamic search engine that would go out and actually you would put in the good and it would look for the lowest price. You would scan the internet, send you signals. Walmart bought Jet.com, made it part of their search engines, took the CEO of Jet.com, made him their CIO, and then expanded that from there. We'll talk more about that in the Omni channel. But in, it's just 2016, can't remember. But you started to see a fundamental shift in the way that Walmart thought when they started coming up with these. Walmart, their big number one strength always has been supply chain and the abilities to be able to focus on the best ways to get things to consumers. And so this is a commercial that they have for the Super Bowl. This is a segmented commercial. This commercial is telling you things. I want you to be listening and see the signals and tell me who this appeals to.
Yeah. Oh, no.
It's the future, Michael.
Oh, I'm not Michael.
I don't worry, he calls everyone Michael.
Sorry. Easter egg. That's Sam Walton's original Ford that he traveled around the United States with during the 70s and 80s. Okay. So just thought I'd show you that little Easter egg there. So 2016 is when the commercial was. Does anybody recognize the music and what era it might be? 80s. Got it. Anybody know what the name of the song is? Very good. You know your 80s music for you. Okay. Yes, Randy Newman, Cars. All right. This is part of New Wave, by the way. New Wave started in 79. I would look up pop music if you want to find out when the 79 is the era that the 80s music really started. Anyway, I'm going on. Now, this is a 2016 commercial, but they're using 80s music. When are the symbolism in the cars there, by the way? What era is that from, too? We're talking about Scooby-Doo, Transformers, let's see, Dumb and Dumber. The fact that there are many of them that you don't recognize is kind of a signal there to tell you who this really appeals to. So, what group would you say? What years would you say this should appeal to? Excellent, very good. Yes. So, where are those 80s or 90s kids now in 2016? Yes, they're adults. So they might have families and they might have kids. And this is about curb service at Walmart where you order online and you don't get out of the car, which means what doesn't get out either? Yes, thank you. You got it all. Good group. Okay. You got the signals. That's what marketing experts do. You pull things apart, you put them together, and you come up with answers. Exactly. This is a perfect commercial that basically shows us how market segmentation can occur by place. All right. Now, the symbols are different because it is not about what we buy or where, excuse me, not necessarily where we buy, but how we buy. Okay. And how those things are done. And that's what this chapter is going to be about. So let us go chapter 2. So why do we need to understand this? We'll talk about the service outputs, and then on Thursday, we'll talk about how do we go about actually you doing the segmenting process. And so let's go back to our friendly drawing to see the actors in our little play. Our manufacturers, our intermediaries, retail, wholesale, and specialized, and the end users, because the end users perform channel functions. Now, because that we are marketing, we always start with the end users as our strategy. We always start with the end user because the end user holds the power of the purse. The end user is the reason that we have supply chains, because our users have demands, and we hope to fulfill those demands with a reasonable rate of return. We hope to provide our consumers with ease of ability to be able to acquire their goods at a minimum cost at the exact moments that they wish them. And that is the purpose and the reason for designing efficient channels to bring our consumers not what they want, but how they want to buy them and how they want to consume them. And so that makes it a little bit different than all the rest. And so how do we go about grouping delivery? Because that's exactly what we're doing. Well, we group our delivery based upon how we want those products or services to be bought. We group those end users, how people want them, and we base them on what's known as a service output. A service output are the elements that describe how a product and a service can be bought. How? So to give you an idea, there are many ways to be able to do delivery. There are many ways to do storage. But pods are an example of how you deliver something in a very unique way. Pods is storage. Pods are exactly like putting something in a mini warehouse. But the difference of pods is that pods can be moved. Not only that, you don't have to bring your goods to the storage comes to you. So that is an example about market segmentation and its ability to take an existing service and make it unique for a unique group of individuals. And so let's talk about those service outputs. How do we group our particular services that we have so that we maximize their particular desires? So they're talking about CDW here. And one of the things that CDW does, you don't have to know this for the test or anything, but CDW will provide you with the goods that you want, but it'll also do what's called ancillary value services, where basically what they'll do is they will not only get you the goods that you need at the right time, but they can deliver the kind of expertise you need at the moment that you need it. And so that is an example. We'll talk about the service at the very end as well. So what are the end user segmentation criteria? Excuse me, lunch. Most important meal of the day. All right, so first thing I want to say is that all things being equal, end users prefer a marketing channel that provides more service outputs, not less. We're going to talk about these 6 categories one at a time. And so don't feel like you have to write these down because we'll talk about them individually. But let us start with talking about one of the most basic, breaking bulk. One of the most desired service outputs, but not necessarily the most important, but one of the most desired service outputs that consumers want is the ability to buy their desired goods in small numbered units. If you buy in small lots, it reduces the need for end users to store unwanted inventory. Somebody's going to store it one way or another, either the businesses that you work with or yourself. Whoever stores them gets the break. And so Costco, since you buy things by the lot, the whole stuff about break bulking, well, Costco says, we'll give you our goods at cost, you break it up yourself. However, the smaller and smaller and smaller the lot sizes, ironically, the more desirable it is for consumers. The more bulk breaking the channel does, the smaller the lot sizes end users buy, and the higher the channel's service level output. End users are more willing to pay a higher price that covers the cost in small lot sizes. Lot sizes now, or let's just say along with all other items, food items now are especially more valued in smaller lot sizes. So an example. So we have this little go bag or this kit bag. We have a timeshare in Myrtle Beach. And when we go there, my wife brings a small bottle of Prel and dishwashing pods and, soap powder, those kind of things. And she was willing to initially buy the smaller Prel, and it was the exact same cost of a large bottle of Prel. They were the exact same price. How could this small bottle possibly have the same value of the big one? Well, the smaller one is more convenient. It's easier to work with. And my wife, the genius that she is, she buys the giant bottle and pours into the small bottle, and that's the one we take with us when we have our trips to Myrtle Beach. You're willing to pay a higher price for the convenience of that. And the more you use smaller prices, the greater utility you have and the more satisfaction you get. So it's kind of an interesting thing, we know about soft drinks. The greatest level of satisfaction in a given soft drink is in the first 4 ounces. And then after that, the utility goes down to eventually, it's not unusual, especially for 16, 20 ounce bottles, to still have half of the Coke bottle left. Coming out with the smaller shot size cans, the 7 ounce to 8 ounce size cans, they're actually considered by consumers more valuable because you have the first instance of the first drink every time you have it. And it's a smaller size, more convenient. Consumers like it more. There's a magic number, by the way, when it comes to finding consumables like cookies and soda. There's a magic number. It doesn't have to do with ounces. It has to do with the number that you want to be under. Anybody want to guess what the number you want to be under in a small size candy or a soft drink is? Not ounces, not carbs, calories, okay? So if you look at like the smaller cans, those are 90 calories. Look at what they're doing now, especially with candies. They're making them smaller sizes, but then they're making the big size candy. But have you noticed they're taking the big candy and they're making them two candies now? The reason why? Because you consider two candies, which is the exact same thing, to be more valuable than one big candy. It's the way it works. It's the way our minds go. And I love share, like I'm going to share my M&Ms. Tear and share. Yeah, right. Here, have it. Okay. So anyway, that's an example of bulk breaking. So that's number one. Spatial convenience. How close? Consumers have an increased satisfaction given the closeness they are to their purchased goods. I'm very impressed with Sheetz and the way that they're running things. I think they've come up with a brilliant idea. Anybody ever been to a Buc-ee's? That's insane or what? And every Buc-ee's, by the way, every Buc-ee's is built now. The newest Buc-ee's always have the most pumps in the world. That's the way it is now, okay? So we went to a couple on our way to Orlando during Christmas, and holy cow. I don't know how they call that convenient, but they do. By the way, Buc-ee's is called the world's largest convenience store, in case you ever wonder, although I don't know how it gets that title. The community shopping centers, vending machines, all of those give you a greater satisfaction and a greater value by simply being closer. And spatial convenience, by the way, also can be combined with other service outputs, and we'll talk about them as well. And we'll talk about how variety and assortment, how all of those work together along with convenience to come up with so many different unique permutations in the places that we buy. So we're willing to pay for a 16-ounce Coke in a convenience store, $2.19, whereas we walk across the street to the Lowe's and we can spend 99 cents on a 1 liter bottle, because the closer that it is, the more value that it brings us. Please. Waiting time. How long are we willing to wait? It is amazing when I look at DoorDash and I can consider that it is faster for me on a Sunday morning to order from McDonald's breakfast at 10 o'clock than it is for me to get in line, because I probably won't get to the breakfast food by the time the line goes down. That just in waiting time, DoorDash by itself sells itself. I would say Uber at the same time. So I've told you my daughter's in competition cheer. We have to go to many different locations. Many times some of the places are nearly impossible to park in. Asheville, parking is non-existent in Asheville. But I can Uber, be able to have me somewhere there in 10, or be there to pick me up in 8 minutes, get me over there in 10, and I don't spend 35 minutes in desperation trying to find a parking spot. So I'm willing to wait, but I'm not willing to wait too long. As a matter of fact, with a quick delivery like Uber or with DoorDash, I am much more willing to pay a higher price. This also, by the way, the willingness to wait is also a direct relationship to the cost and to the, the potential risk as well. So the number one first thing that you will buy when you go out of college, research shows this, is your first purchase is going to be an automobile, usually, okay? So you will spend intense amount of time, whether it'll be through information search, discussion with friends, all of those things before you ultimately make the purchase. You're willing to wait on the front end to be able to get exactly what you want. But once you've made that purchase, you don't want to wait at all. You want to get it, okay? And so this flexibility with waiting time ultimately is determined whether it's a before purchase or an after purchase. So I talked about when a hospital gets an MRI, and this one they talk about an ultrasound. Yes, you're willing to pay a higher price for a quick delivery, but if the machine breaks down, your demand for quick repair can be really intense. By the way, if you don't know how service contracts are run, so how do I get a repair person there within 4 hours? That's usually the Mendoza line. So the way you do it is this way. Service contracts on site are generally calculated at 20% of the original cost. And so if an MRI cost $500,000, the annual service contract is $100,000. Simple as that, whether one person is called or no one is called. However, service contracts have great value as well because they're already money that has been used. And so what happens is individuals who purchase service contracts are much more likely to do things like scheduled maintenance because that's part of the contract as well. They serve their purpose, even though it seems crazy to be spending 20% more on something that may never happen. So, as I said before, you'll see all of these kind of combining together. This is an example of in Mexico where major manufacturers sell through their hypermarkets and restaurants, but there's also small distributors generally in any residence, especially in any apartment complex. You're going to find something we're going to talk about later called service outputs. And there's what's called gap analysis, where the service provided is less than the service that's demanded. And so what you find is these individuals who will actually go buy a keg of beer, they will rebottle it based upon the bottles that you give them, and then they'll resell it. So an example also in Russia is generally in every neighborhood in Russia, there'll be one person who brews vodka. And so they'll have the vodka ready. You bring your liter canister or your whatever you have, and then they will sell it to you by the liter in whatever container you bring them. And so what I want you to understand is that all of these things come together. There's all this kind of magical mix that creates the total package that is desired by consumers. So this is one of those that I'm going to show something additional with, and it is the concept of variety and assortment. So variety is the different product lines. Okay. Assortment is the breadth of a single line, and let me use something else to kind of make it easier for you to understand. So this is breadth and depth, okay? So variety is this way, the different things that you would have, okay? So let's just say one category is watches. Watches would be one category of the breadth of the variety. In the watches, you could have Swatch, you could have Rolex, you could have Omega, you could have Timex, You can have many, many, many different ones, and that's the difference between breadth and depth, okay? I want to make sure that that kind of hammers onto you right. So if you're to look at breadth and depth, so athletic, dress shoes, seasonal, then the depth is the styles and the sizes and the brands, okay? The different things that they would sell, okay? Variety. So let me give you an example of how all of these things blend together. So spatial convenience, variety, and assortment. First example, Walmart. There's only one Walmart in the city. Carries thousands and thousands of items, 65,000, I think is the average. In their supermarkets, they carry just about everything or every product line they can, but they don't have the breadth of each individual line. So the supermarkets, Lowe's and the rest, they have extensive product lines and extensive depth as well. Supermarkets can have up to 150,000 different items, mainly because they focus on supermarket goods and nothing else. Whereas Walmart tries to catch as many possible things as they have, but not as much of the breadth. So you might have 6 or 7 supermarkets in a city like Boone. I think there's 10 actually. You might have 10 of those, but you won't have each unique individual supermarket that are competing against each other. Now you do have, Food Lion in town and you have Food Lion out towards 421. So Dollar General is 80% of the variety and sort of very, very limited assortments, but that's not the number one thing they're selling. The number one thing that they're selling is convenience. It is, think about where the Dollar Generals are in this town. One, they're not in town. They're not. 2, they're going out of town. Now think about it. On going out towards Tennessee, the Dollar General is on the right because you're going out of town. Easiest way, convenience, all right? On 421 going out towards Wilkesboro, across from New Market Center, the Dollar General's on the right. There are reasons for this. They put them in positions so that convenience is ultimately what sells you. And so the variety and assortment are not necessarily what you're going for. You're going for the convenience of just pulling into a Dollar General. Yes,
Something super interesting that I realized too
what's that?
is that from the ski resorts and everything is on the right going towards Boone.
Yep.
Because that's where usually everybody stays.
Yeah, very good. Excellent. Yes. And realize, good observation, and realize everything has a purpose, all right? I mean, they're doing these things because markets or whatever. How about a good old-fashioned intuition? Tell them this is the way it is. Good observation. Now, one of those really unique ones is Hot Topic when it comes to assortment and delivery, because Hot Topic is it's the only company that I know of that has been able to tackle a marketing problem that is considered impossible, and that's a fad, okay? How do you predict a fad? So right now, in department stores across the United States and clothing stores, they're already starting to sell spring apparel because basically styles and fashion are 6 weeks ahead of everything that's going on at this moment. The decisions that are being made in stores right now were made in October, 6 months ago, to make sure that they would have the things to go for, because that's the way that things are done, except for them, okay? Hot Topic has a very unique specialized group. They tend to have women and men between 18 and 25 to even 30. And their thing is they're going to roll out a fad as fast as they could. Now, when this was out, it was 8 weeks. Now it's down to less than 2 weeks, how fast that they can move. And whether you think of Hot Topic now as an influencer or whether someone who follows, who knows, all right? At some point, the influenced becomes an influencer at the same time. And so now there's this excellent mish that's going on right now. And so they can throw something in, hit the fad at the right time, and by the end of the month, those things are in the bargain bin. And they're able to do it for a profit, which is astonishing, believe me, okay? So it's their ability to pick the right thing at the right time to deliver it fast, which does not happen in fashion, that makes them such a success. And nobody's got that place but them, and they're doing a great job at it. Customer service. So as I've talked about before, the easing of the process, the speeding of the way to help consumers to be able to get the goods they want, the possession utility, the ability to deliver the finance, to deliver the support at the moment that they need them, are highly sought after. Excellent customer service, especially when the consumer needs it and desires it, translate directly into sales and to profit. We know that substantially. The difficulty, of course, is that those darn consumers won't stay still, and they're always finding something new to change things around. And so sometimes there's too much service, and we'll talk about service gaps when service provided is less than consumers desire. But in certain things, no doubt about it. So how do you do that? You invest. You invest in the people that work with you. An example is DirecTV. Now, churn happens everywhere, but DirecTV is one of those that has the lowest churn when it comes to consumers moving back and forth. Why? Because their service department is pretty darn good. When you become a service tech with DirecTV, they give you everything. You have all the unlimited packages. And they promote and encourage you to be able to invest time understanding even the little tweaks that it takes in order to achieve a success. And they do it quite well. If I can do one thing, if I can provide more information, actually two things, more information and be better to my customers, I fundamentally change the goods that I'm selling. It is not just a Lexus I'm selling. I'm selling oil changes to make sure that that car doesn't break down before I can get to it and fix it. That's what customer service can do. So while we're talking about this, let me do something here just for chuckles. So let's see. I'll put my computer out. Okay, so. Okay, so this is the Bass Pro Shop. This is in Baton Rouge. This is East Baton Rouge. This is out towards Delcom and Destrehan. So this is Denham Springs. If you look around, you see that lake out there? They built the lake for the Bass Pro Shop. Why? Well, if you see a bass boat out there you like, guess what? They'll put it on the water for you and let you drive it around for about 30 minutes to see if you really like it, okay? Now think about that, how far that is going, okay? That is an example of a customer service that especially is to a unique market segment, which is men, all right? And so that's just pretty outstanding. And now Bass and Cabela's are merged together. And so Cabela's and Bass, if you go to Concord Mills, they've got one there, really are astonishing to go into, all right? men don't necessarily not like shopping. You just gotta throw them something they like looking at, okay? So I was in a Bass Pro Shop. They had a tank that was like a giant glass tank, 20 feet by 12 feet. And it was stocked with bass, so you could see the bass swimming. And there was a guy up on top casting and talking about how to catch these particular fish. And this also goes, by the way, in when we're going to talking about solutions providing, but he's showing how to cast the fish. And there had to be 200 people watching this guy because it was just fascinating to just watch somebody with skill. And he hit bass after bass after bass. You know, of course, they're all starving to death. You know, I mean, that's what they do to the fish before they put them in. And anyway, it was a brilliant demonstration. It drew a crowd, and it's just one of those things that clicks, and it's an example of customer service, a uniqueness that they provide. And the last is information sharing. Information sharing is probably the most important of all of these. The education of the consumer about the attributes and capabilities of goods that they wish to buy can be second to none when it comes to securing value. Now, as I said before, the guy catching all of these crazy fish, that was an example. When I was in Lafayette, Louisiana, I was a manager of a computer store back when they had such a thing. And one of the things in Lafayette is a petroleum headquarters. So Lafayette is in Southwest Louisiana, 2 hours from the Gulf. It's where all of the major engineers who want to have a decent place to live, they live in Lafayette. Engineers actually can be not just huge conglomerates, they can be 2 and 3 people. They draw maps, they do seismographic, do geodesic studies. So to do that, you need a computer-aided design package. And computer-aided design packages in the 80s, the lowest price was Intergraph Systems were like $120,000. In 1983, AutoCAD came out, or Autodesk came out with AutoCAD, which was a computer-aided design package running on MS-DOS that could do everything, that could do everything that the Intergraph systems could do, and you could buy it for $3,000. So you could buy an Intergraph system, you could buy a PC that was strong enough back then to be able to do it for about $2,000, and then you could buy what's called an E-size plotter. Now, a plotter is something that is used to make these giant 48-inch by 60-inch drawing. Those are called E-sizes. They take a large sheet of paper, they put it on like a cradle, and it moves back and forth as a pen moves sideways to draw all the drawings. So we had HP at that time. Plotters were about $5,000. You could put all of this together in about $10,000, and you could save engineers, even two-person engineering firms, which there were a lot in Lafayette. They could be able to do anything that any of the big engineering firms. This is really the major explosion that happened in the 80s and still happens this now. The ability for one person or 2 people to be able to fundamentally change everything. It started really in the computer systems in the 80s, and it goes on to this day. How will we sell that? Well, I got an engineer. Who used AutoCAD, who liked it. We paid him some money. We did what was called solutions retailing. So just like at a Home Depot, if you were to go to a Lowe's, usually there used to be like every Thursday, they would have like a 30-minute class, like how to do grout or how to lay tile. Well, this was the same thing. We did this, we showed them how it's done. We were going to do this from 6 to 7. I didn't get out of there till midnight. Somebody came in with drinks at 9. This is the 80s now. And we started working, and we didn't stop until midnight, and we had 4 units sold. So this is an example of how information sharing can basically spur consumers on because you provide them with solutions of things they've never thought of. So information sharing. And so we're stopping here, all right? So when we come in Thursday, we're going to talk about how do we go about segmenting by service output. We'll show you an example. Then we'll talk about how do we go about targeting, and then we'll be done for the week. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.